Unit 8, Day 2, finding a missing side again. This is what we did yesterday, except today you'll notice the missing side is going to be in a different location in the equation. So there's a couple sayings. This equation on the left, sine 32 degrees equals x over 5. And the saying is, when x is up high, multiply. So my x is up high in that fraction, which means we are going to multiply both sides of the equation by whatever's underneath. So I'll do times 5 times 5. And then just a quick reminder, I'll pull up the calculator. Here's how we put that into the calculator. You just type in 5 sine 32, exactly the way you see it. Hit enter. Nearest tenth, 2.6. So those are all the equations that you saw yesterday. Today, x is going to be in the bottom of the fraction. So the rhyme here is when x is down low, switch and go. It's just a slightly longer process to solve for x. Now the reason that we can switch is because it's really part of a proportion and you can swap the means and the extremes. So this equation is going to become x equals 5 divided by sine 32 degrees. Now we go to do that on the calculator. We'll see 5. Obviously, we hit our division key here. Type in sine 32 and hit enter. So it's the nearest tenth. That's going to be 9.4. So now let's review those 3 trig functions from yesterday and the ratios. Sine of the angle equals the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Cosine of the angle equals the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And tangent of the angle equals the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. We're going to use those same 3 trig ratios in today's lesson. In example 1, it says find the value of x to the nearest tenth. The approach is the exact same as yesterday's lesson. Identify the angle and then the 2 sides that are given to you in the diagram. So the opposite side is not given to us. That would be NC. X is the hypotenuse and 34 is the adjacent. And remember we said yesterday, the adjacent and the hypotenuse always make up the angle. So it's just a matter of identifying which one's which. Now we look up above and we see, all right, well, which of those trig functions is adjacent over hypotenuse? That is cosine. So I write the equation. Cosine of the angle, 62 degrees, equals, it has to be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so that means it's 34 over x. And what you're going to notice in today's lesson, x is going to be in the denominator in every single one of these. Yesterday it was in the numerator in every single one. So from the rhyme, when x is down low, switch and go. So this equation becomes x equals 34 divided by cosine 62 degrees. And that's what you would enter into your calculator. 34 divided by cosine 62. 72.4. Example 2, find x to the nearest tenth. Locate the angle and identify what sides you are given. So across from the angle is always the opposite. 18 is the opposite. And x is the adjacent. It's next to the angle, but it's not the hypotenuse. So now looking up above, we have adjacent and we have opposite. That indicates tangent. Tangent of the angle, 68 degrees, equals the opposite side, 18, over the adjacent side, x. When x is down low, switch and go. So I want to see you guys write this out. x equals 18 divided by tangent 68. And then you can put that into the calculator. 18 divided by tangent 68. Hit enter. 7.3 to the nearest tenth. Example 3, find x to the nearest tenth. Highlight your angle. 17 is the opposite side, and x is the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse, that would be our sine function. Sine of 23 degrees equals 17 over x. And by now you guys are probably pretty familiar with this. X is going to be on the bottom for every one of these, which means we're going to switch and go on every one. X equals 17 divided by sine 23. Let's see what the calculator gives us there. 17 divided by sine 23. 43.5. Example 4, one more. There's my angle 71. Let's see, x would be the opposite, and 48 is adjacent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I write down tangent of the angle. You put the angle next, 71 degrees, equals, it has to be the opposite over the adjacent, x over 48. Well, if you notice here, we're mixing it up a little bit. This is the type of equation we did yesterday. So I'm not going to do the same thing I did in example 3 or 2 or 1. Now my x is up high, so here's the work you would show. When x is up high, you multiply. I will multiply both sides of the equation by 48, so it cancels with that 48, just gives me an x all by itself. Then on my calculator, I type in 48 tangent 71. And that gives me 139.4. All right, example 4, create your own problem. Find the value of x to the nearest tenth. I'm going to get some information from you guys. Colin, give me an angle less than 90 degrees. 74. I'll put it up here. Macy, give me any number less than 100. 21. Alex, you tell me hypotenuse or opposite? All right, so now if we look at that information, we just made this problem up. Look at your angle. We said we were given the opposite side here, and 21 would be the adjacent side. So to solve for x, I have to use a trig function that involves opposite and adjacent. So that's tangent. Tangent of my angle, which is 74 degrees, equals the opposite side, which is x, over the adjacent side, which is 21. Now we have to determine where is the x. Is it up high? Is it down low? And then what do? X is up high. It's on the top of the fraction. Up high means multiply. In our calculator, we are going to type in 21 tangent 74. Hit enter. 73.2 is the correct answer for this triangle. And that concludes lesson 8.2.